record and then upload.
Yeah.
Right, sorry about delays there. Let's get started. Welcome everybody. Just a couple of little bits of housekeeping. We're going to try as an improvement to display the agenda as we go along so people can keep up. So it does reduce how much I can see on screen. So if anybody does want to speak, remember to press the raise hand button, because otherwise you could be sat there and I can't actually see you. So just obviously bear that in mind. Also, obviously, because some of it does include people's personal details, I have redacted anything that makes reference to anybody's name in it. So members have got the actual proper version, but there are some bits blacked out on the bit that will go into display. So let's get started. And first of all, public forum. Does anybody have anything they want to say?
If no one else.
Hi, Hannah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a couple of things really, because at the last meeting I said I'd update everyone on Carnival and whatnot. It's not going to come as much of a surprise, but unfortunately we're going to have to postpone it.
Right.
It's something that we've been talking to other event organisers and keeping up to date with all the other guidelines that have come out since Sunday. There's no lift whatsoever on the mass gathering ban. So obviously, you know, even if it was miraculously lifted by then, I think it'd be irresponsible anyway, because we don't want to be a hotspot. Everyone's been contacted, and yeah, everyone's happy to hold off till next year. All the deposits being used for next year. So 17th July 2021 is next year's carnival. Sponsors are happy to hold off till next year as well. Yeah, so a bit of a plug for the scarecrows, because that at the moment is the only thing we can do on the run up to Carnival,
Yeah.
or what would have been the Carnival day. So that's lockdown activities and key work scarecrows. We've already got a few up already, which is quite nice. And Old Tupton across Derby Road are joining as well this year.
Brilliant.
So we've got some around there. Yeah, the next bit of it though is a lot of the event organisers that organise things in August, like Notting Hill Carnival, Ashover Show, Dorset Steam Fair, they're all postponing to next year as well, which means BJ Day, both have asked that no events be held in August this year for BJ Day as well.
Yeah.
Both of these dates, both Carnival and BJ Day, we are going to figure out a way to mark the days as well. We've pretty much sorted BJ Day. We know how we're going to do that one. Carnival, it is pretty much, we've got a very good idea what we're going to do. So it's a case of stay tuned. We'll announce these later on when it's up. But we're not going to let the days go by unmarked.
No, absolutely. And I think, to be truthful, Hannah, as well, the time, particularly with the Carnival especially, it's getting so short now, isn't it? You're not going to have the time to promote it. And even if it miraculously we had the cure and everything else, it's not gonna boost it enough, is it, to get it on there? So,
and people are going to be wary.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're not even sure what point children are going to be back, let alone that. So no, it's disappointing news, but I think you've done absolutely
not unexpected.
Yeah, it's not unexpected, and I don't really think we could do any other. I mean. I wasn't going to mention it until we got to the relevant section, but I mean, we've only got to look at how well VE Day went, and if we can get people pulling together in the same sort of thing with that, then they pull together. So I think we'll
find something to get people doing something.
yeah, and I think that's best that you can do. So no, brilliant, thank you. It's all right. Let me just mute so we don't get the background noise. Ruth.
Yeah, I've just had two questions from a resident, from Mr. Muldoon. He's raised concerns about the number of vehicles speeding along Ankerbold Road again, and he's particularly concerned about what the situation will be after today's easing of travel restrictions. And in conjunction with that, with the relaxation, he's wondering if Northwood will be starting the development work soon, and the possibility of whether they will have warning signs at all junctions leading onto the road of the HGV movement. So really concerns about traffic movement altogether on Ankerbold Road. I mean, I can see if I can see what Northwood are doing. I can get in touch with Northwood and see if they've got any plans in the pipeline for restarting, and raise this issue with them. But also I can also get in touch with DCC about the problem about the speeding and our local PCSO, and see if anything can be done to keep an eye on that.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
If you can see that, but I'm assuming we've not heard from Northwood on the other stuff yet.
No. I'm presuming that they're either working on skeleton staff or shut down. I don't know. I've not had any.
Yeah, logic says they're going to have been furloughed, aren't they?
Yeah.
So,
I've not even been on there, so I can't say. I've not seen any there.
No,
I've been past a few times, so I've not seen any activity at all. So I'm presuming nothing's happening.
Road. It's all fenced off still at the top of
Yeah,
my road.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Right, let's get on with the agenda. Do we have any apologies for absence?
We've got John Hearn and Stephen Peters.
Thanks, Ruth. And declaration of interest. Has anyone got any?
No.
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 Okay. To confirm the minutes from, bear with me while I get this up. He says. To confirm the minutes from last month. I've picked up a couple of change. Well, just one actually. It was on the resolution for the memorial for Mick Scott.
Right, yeah.
I think we actually just agreed a memorial in the community garden because I think we've gone more with plant type ones rather than a plaque. So I think it was just,
I'll take plaque out. Yeah.
Just that amendment, if you would, Ruth. Thank you.
Will do. Yes, yeah.
I raised my hand, David.
Sorry, it blanked it out. Gary, when we got there. Sorry.
I just needed to query the minute, which actually refers to Hannah, under the matters raised in public participation. And I did check with Hannah my recollection of this, but at the time of the meeting, Hannah didn't say that the carnival, this was in April, of course, the carnival had now been postponed. She said, she gave an update on the proposed arrangements. She said that the committee will be holding a meeting later in the month to decide how to proceed. So that isn't an accurate minute.
Right, I thought I misinterpreted that.
Yeah, I think my recollection as well was that Hannah said that arrangements had been made if it had to be postponed. I think was something to that effect, wasn't it, Hannah? Yeah, if memory serves correctly. Yeah.
So if we could just change it, I mean, there's the bit about which had not been postponed can be deleted, and in fact, the bit about not taking place till next year, I mean, she's now announcing it, but she didn't announce it in April.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Yeah.
With those two amendments, is everyone happy?
Yeah.
Given that we have got everybody on screen, do we just want to raise hands and then save Ruth going through for the thing? Yeah, that's
okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Agenda. So, does anyone have any urgent items for inclusion?
No.
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 I will. Hello.
Yeah.
I will say, just in case people don't know, the green bins are back on 18th of May onwards, and you need to put your bin out on your usual collection day.
I think the whole village is Tuesday now. I don't think there's any bits that are Wednesday, but yeah.
Well, that's the green bins are back on week commencing the 18th of May. So put them out on your usual bin day.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Ross.
And I think it's probably worth mentioning as well, just for reference, an email that's come around this afternoon from North East. It's worth. I'm going to mention it so they can go in items for information. It's from Rickneld. let me just find the relevant paragraph. Ricknell homes are receiving increased calls from tenants and residents asking for advice and information. The calls are mainly about rent payments and requests for debt and benefit advice. Staff are responding with clear advice and guidance and are helping people complete forms over the phone. It is reassuring to hear that no enforcement action will be taken where rent arrears have accrued as a result of the current situation. The emphasis is on helping residents to get back on track as soon as possible after lockdown. So just really to confirm for all Ricknell residents that support is there rather than else. Coral, you've got your hand up.
Oh, no, I put it down actually. Let me have a look.
I've lowered it. You're all right.
Thank you.
Just on that point, David. Basically, what Ricknell want people to do is, if people think that they're going to end up in arrears, to try and call in advance so that Ricknell know about it. So then it can be kind of dealt with and managed from the get-go, rather than people accruing very high arrears, and then it kind of, because ultimately they're going to have to pay them back. It's just at what point.
Yeah.
So if it can be managed through now, then that kind of plan can be put in place now, rather than wait until the residents are obviously in dire need.
No, that's brilliant. At least people can have the confidence that there's some support there.
Yeah. There's also just something else. There probably is another agenda item for this, but if people know residents that need food parcels and stuff like that, the district council do have plenty of food to go around for vulnerable residents. So if you know of any that are struggling to get to the shop or just need some general kind of support, even if that's just a phone call every day, then contact Ricknell's on or you can contact the normal council number actually, which is 01246 231111.
Yeah.
And then just speak to them about any issue you've got, and they'll point you in the right direction.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Right. Item 5, to determine which items, if any, should be taken with the public and press excluded. There's actually nothing on the agenda. There was one that I was a bit wary of, but I don't think we need to do that. Item 6, to consider any items raised by members. Again, there's nothing been submitted, so nowhere on that. Sorry, I've just seen what's coming up on the agenda. it's the annual celebration of me and Kathy getting together against everybody else, I think. Let's go over to item 7 and the clock.
Okay. One to look forward to, no doubt. Right, on the action plan, I haven't as yet been in contact with the vicar. I didn't know whether it was appropriate at this point in time, because they will need to, I presume she will need to meet with her PCC to discuss things about the war memorial and the railings around it. So I'm hoping to get in touch with her as soon as possible, as soon as we can probably get something done about it. On grounds maintenance, there is an item on the agenda. As agreed at the last meeting, North East Derbyshire have been retained for grounds maintenance, and I have written to North East Derbyshire to request a reduction in costs. They have said that they will look at this and review it, and it'll be subject to the level of maintenance that's carried out over the year. As a matter of interest, I did have an email, I don't know, it was yesterday or the day before, from a resident who said that I don't know who's cutting North Side, but they've made a terrible job of it. So I'm just going to follow that up. I don't know whether that's North East that have actually been and cut around there. And I don't know whether she refers to the field or to the actual North Side roadside. So I just need to follow up on that. The procedure for ill health retirement is going ahead. I'm still waiting for information on that.
Cheers,
Birkin Avenue, we've had quotes in from 2 contractors now. I'm waiting for a further 2 that I've had discussions with, and who expressed an interest in submitting quotes for the work. This first stage of the grant application has been approved. We've been invited to go to the second stage. Unfortunately, I can't submit the second stage until I've got the quotes in. We have to submit at least 3 quotes for that second stage grant application. So as soon as I get a third one in, I will submit that based on the 3 that I've got, and then bring it back to the next parish council meeting. Hopefully I will have all the quotes in by then.
Brilliant.
The next 2 items are on hold. The bus shelter now is all completed. We still got the electricity on the bus shelter, but again, I've not followed that up at this moment in time with the situation, but I will speak to them now that contractors are beginning to go out and do work again. Because last time I spoke to them, they weren't aware that the electricity hadn't been put on.
I remember, yes.
Yes, yeah, so I will chase them up about that. The next item is on hold. Tupton Youth Club building, that item is on the agenda for discussion. We have had a response from DCC. Mobile phones, eventually I have now spoken with BT. They've actually let me speak to them after several months trying to get them to cancel the contract. Eventually I was told 3 weeks ago, oh well, we can't talk to you anyway because you're not registered on the account. So I've had to go through a process and register myself on the account, and that they are now talking to me. And I actually got it cancelled on Monday.
Oh, lovely.
That's good.
I'm waiting the bill though, so we'll see what that comes out at, because I've not paid anything since we've been trying to cancel the contract.
It's amazing how quick they start talking to you when you stop
Yes.
paying.
Yes. Claycross Station is on hold. The Facebook site, yes, I do update that as required now, and I have received the training on the website, and I've started updating that as well. I've got all the minutes up to date, and I'm just trying to work my way through. A couple of members have pointed out some unusual things that seem to be happening, wrong links to wrong councillors, etc. So I'm literally having to work my way through it individually and try and get everything updated as best I can. I've just put a bit of a lead news thing on about COVID-19, explaining that the parish council is operating almost as normal, and inviting people to get in touch if they've got any comments or anything, and also explaining that the parish council meet virtually. And I did put the link, explained that members of the public could join. So that's on the website now as well. The NatWest account, yes, Kathy has sent I sent a letter of authority through to Kathy, which Kathy sent on to NatWest to try and get them to speak with me, but we've not heard anything back from them, unfortunately. Whether that will get delayed until things are up and running properly again, but I'm afraid that's just on hold until we get some information back from them. The notice board, I haven't done anything about that at this moment in time, but I'm trying to see if we can get a better backboard for that when we get operating again. The existing DFIB, that is as last month. That's the current one is operational, back in place, and still wanting to look at sites for the other ones once we can get moving around again. I've now added Tupton Village Hall to the action plan, looking to formulate discussions and to regularise and legalise the ownership and trustee arrangements. The management committee have been approached, and there is a report on the agenda for discussion.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Adding two items to that, on going to add Anchor Bowl development onto the action plan so that we can keep a check on that, and also allotment fires. That's 2 issues that have been raised during this lockdown period that we just need to keep an eye on as and when it becomes possible to do so.
Right, the fun one.
Thank you.
Right, next the fun one, yes. Just to get confirmation through, money has been put in the budget for floral decorations for village planters, and I'm just looking for advice as to what you require. Last year, I understand you had 3 tier planters and 2 troughs. You did put additional money in the budget if you wanted to increase the number of planters, but I have been contacted by the supplier that you used last year, to see what our requirements are. They will be working. They have got authority. I know they've got authority now that they couldn't at one time. DCC, I know we're not having hanging baskets, but DCC were stopping the lamppost testing at one point, but now they've approved it. So they are happy for lamppost testing and hanging of hanging baskets to go ahead. But really, I'm looking for your advice on that.
How much did we put in the budget, Ruth? Because I've not got a copy of that in front of me.
It put an extra 1,500 in the budget. Last year, the cost of the planters last year was 1,050, and that was for three tiers. I think they were £300 each, and I think the troughs were 150 each. You rent them. They come and fill them and take them away. I understand. I think that's how you've done it in previous years.
Last year was the first time we used Woollymore. I mean, to be honest, they were brilliant. They were a lot better than
Yeah, they were good.
Weren't they?
Yeah, I have worked with them before, and I've been very, very impressed with them.
I just sorry, put my hand up. I just thought last year we had probably too many round the village hall, and I knew purposely we were doing that. We were purposely putting them around the village hall, but I'm just wondering if we kind of move one of them to either the other end of North Wingfield Road or near the New Inn pub, sort of kind of branch out a little bit more. So
I think I couldn't remember, because Ruth and I spoke on the phone earlier, and I couldn't remember. There was a reason, and we had to really cut the budget for flowers last year. I think something had massively overspent, so that was the thing that ended up getting the chop. So we went on a very centralised arrangement, but I think the intention, which is why we've got more in the pot this time, is to try and have a wider spread.
we had those like 3-tiered ones, didn't we? But we have one next to the chemist and then one across the road. So I didn't know if maybe just move one of those to somewhere else within the village.
I would say, sorry, Ross has got his hand up. It's because he's gone on an admin, so he doesn't have the raise hand button, does it?
I can't even find my raise button. Oh, there it is, there.
Can I go?
Yeah, sorry, Ross.
Yeah.
I'm missing something here, but isn't the purpose of the flowers so people can look at them? And if people aren't allowed out the house?
Well, they are. They can increase the amount of time they're allowed out now, can't they?
From today we can, yeah.
Because I'm just thinking that given that probably, I mean, I don't want to preempt what's going to happen, but we might have more people approaching us towards the back end of the year when everything's back to normal about wanting support. Is this a priority?
Yes.
Can I?
And we have more.
Can I mute Camille?
Kathy.
Oh, Kathy's
You might be surprised, David. I have some sympathy with Ross's view here. I mean, you can argue this in two ways. One is that, is this a priority because maybe people aren't out of their houses quite so much, and that's still going to be the case despite the relaxation from today.
Yes, it is.
You know, if a lot of people are going to be staying at home, so they won't be looking at them. On the other hand, you can argue it that does cheer you up, you know, seeing them. So I think, you know, there's two different arguments there. I mean, and if where most people still see them is in the centre of the village, to be honest, because there are still people going to that pharmacy, there's still people going to that shop, there are still some people travelling by public transport. And we're likely to take it from the centre of the village. So I still think having a good presence in the centre of the village is a good thing. But I think you can, as I say, you can argue it both ways. Is this a priority to expend more money? I'm not saying we should
stick to the same budget as we had last.
Stick to the same. Stick to what we did last year. Would be my inclination.
Could we have more troughs? Is there any way to put more troughs than the actual?
What I was thinking. Because the troughs where they went last year, I don't think
nobody saw them.
They didn't have the effect we hoped they would have.
No.
So I'd be inclined, even if we used a similar budget to last year, to run with. Did you say we had three of the tower things?
According to the invoice, there were 3 towers and 2 troughs.
I thought that was the case. Yeah, I think we had one in the community garden, one by the phone box, and one.
Yeah.
The one that went in front of the pharmacy actually was ordered before the pharmacy had their refit, wasn't it? And
Yes.
we ordered it so that it would hide what had been very open, sort of blank, derelict looking shop front. And then of course they actually did their refit between the order going in and the flowers being delivered. So I'm not sure that one needs to go there. I think the one in the middle of the community garden actually looked quite nice.
Yeah.
So I would be inclined to keep that. Picking up on what you were saying, Kathy, to be truthful about the placement, and we'd need to kind of have a bit of a look, because I don't know if we're allowed to put any on there. But I would say if we can have one on that green area in front of the Sales Avenue shop, because there's still a lot of people going there as well. There's a heavy footfall.
Yeah.
And I think that might be one possibility for us to consider. But yeah, there is a balanced argument, isn't there? I think I think they do cheer people up, and I think this year more than ever we need to cheer people up, if I'm truthful. But yeah, there probably is an argument for not increasing the budget.
I think same. I don't think it needs to be increased, because you don't know what we might want.
I agree about the troughs thing, because one of those troughs certainly was
It was too hidden, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wait, can I just ask, where were the troughs? I can't quite remember where the troughs were.
You know the railings around the back of the pharmacy?
Yes.
They're along there, because we worked on the logic that it would be a nice view for the old people from the bungalows, but they couldn't really see them, and there weren't that many bungalows that could actually overlook them anyway, but they were out of their eye line.
You
So.
could potentially get rid of the troughs then and still have 3 tiered.
Or we could get rid of the troughs and go with four tiers. If we could, find that.
And then just try and find somewhere else where we could put the 4th one then, if we allowed the one on Sales Avenue.
I'm wary that Pam's being very, very quiet.
Pam is going along with, wherever is most suitable, but to keep it at the same cost roughly as last year.
Yeah, agreed.
That's mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just thinking where else it would go. I mean, I was thinking of the estate at the back.
I'm thinking logically, if we go with 4 tiers, it will put the price up by about 150 quid.
On top of what we paid last year.
On top of because last year it was 1,050, so that's for three towers and 2 troughs. If we go with 4 troughs, obviously that's 4 lots of 300, so that'd be 1,200.
Wait, did we not just say we're getting rid of the troughs and going for the 4 towers?
That's what we're kind of contemplating, Ross.
Well, there's nowhere to put troughs, is there?
Yeah, those.
I think they were away.
Most better than the troughs.
Yeah.
Especially if they're hidden outside at pharmacy. Even passing traffic going down Green Lane's going to miss half of them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't see him at all.
So was I can't remember whether there were one outside, across front shop outside your Pauline's.
Yeah, there were one there, I think.
One there.
Well, now they've taken down the phone box, so one will stand there as well again. Man, but you've got one in garden, haven't you?
We've had one there for years.
Maybe just if one's already there, we're saying, right? I'm going to stick with 3 of those tier things. If we're just trying to find places for them to go, just stick with 3 tier things, get rid of troughs, and then everyone's happy, aren't we? Then?
Yeah. So one in the community garden, one at the top of Green Lane, and one on Sales Avenue.
Whereabouts on Sales Avenue?
Is that where they were last year?
No, Sales Avenue we never had one.
Okay.
Opposite the shop.
Yeah, opposite the shop on Sales Avenue. So to be on the green, kind of behind where the bus stop is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that'll do for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd need to get authority from North East, because that bit's their land.
Yeah, if it's possible then.
Yeah.
I've got a hand up. That one?
Sales Avenue, I was thinking of that, but the children play football on there.
Yeah, but they're not allowed, are they, just now?
Well, no, but they might be.
It might become
that they can. I'm just thinking it might just get knocked over. Now, I don't mean deliberately, but I'm just thinking the children are playing football on there, and if there's you know, if there's flowers on there, they might get accidentally damaged on like green. But I do think it's a good idea, but I'm a bit wary of putting it
What
there.
about downside where park is down? Because it's fenced off, that park, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably.
And then all the bungalows are right round there as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd be wary going on one at street corners because the buses clip those constantly.
Yeah, the buses don't go around there, do
No,
they?
I'm on about down bottom and more to Davenport Road. The buses don't go on there.
They used to have one at the top of the bungalows on Wingfield Road. You know, the bungalows that are dropped down. At one time there used to be one on there, I believe.
I've never seen it, Pam.
Have you not?
No.
A year or two.
No.
We've moved them about over years a few times.
Yeah.
But no, I've never. There's not nobody. There's nowhere to put one there anyway.
My
I've
only,
never seen one there.
my only thought was the patch of grass in front of Mr. Wakefield's house. You know, at the end of
Wingfield Road.
yeah,
Oh yeah, there, yeah.
station road is like a patch of grass, isn't they?
Yeah.
Just in front of Mr. Wakefield's house. That's what I was thinking.
Well, it's up to you.
Bus passes past there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Well, I was only thinking if we're going to go for just the three tiers and we can't do Sales Avenue, perhaps.
It's probably the closest viable place where it's going to get seen, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, buses up and down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just go with that as a backup then for the shop.
Yeah.
In
case you can't do Sales Avenue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Have you got that? Are you happy with that, Ruth?
I think so, yeah. So that the one on Wingfield Road would be if we can't get the one on Sales Avenue.
Yeah.
Right, and then there's one at Community Garden and one at top of Green Lane.
Yeah, where the phone box used to be.
Yeah, across from the shop, you know, that bit of that footpath that's like a very wide bit of footpath on corner between Heathermore and Green Lane.
It was like a telephone.
Yeah.
I
think I know what you mean. Yeah. Okay, I'll double check the sites anyway before I put the order in, but that's fine.
It's diagonally across from the chippy.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's really quite a wide area, isn't it? Wide footpath,
Yeah, I'll second Camille's proposal, Ruth, for that.
Okay.
I agree with that one as well.
Right. Do you know, I thought that one would drag out forever. It usually does.
You want me to call out for votes for that then?
It's probably as well, because I'm not sure who can see what on the screen at the minute with having this. Although I can stop the share. Hang on. Yeah. We can see everybody. All in favour?
Yeah.
Brian's voting too on that one. He just wants that extra one outside his house.
Okay.
Right, back to you again, Ruth.
Okay, just a notification of audit. We've received the notification of audit for 2019-20. There's a requirement for the submission to be made by the 31st of July. I'm practically there on the balancing of the final account, so I'm hoping that by your June meeting it will have been to internal audit and I can present it to council for final approval, then hopefully to get it in by the 30th of June, so it would be a month ahead of the deadline. So just really to keep you up to date with that.
Brilliant. Well done. I think as well, just as members, because I know this is a very, very big job and it's tied Ruth up a heck of a lot. And so I think if we can actually just pass on our thanks as a council to the hard work that actually goes in there.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then the next one is it's about the recommencement of the community support worker duties, really sort of looking around to see what other parish councils are doing. Some have actually worked skeleton staff on outside duties during the lockdown. You decided at the time to not allow the community support worker out doing the duties. But in light of the recent announcement, subject to making sure that he can work safely. Wondered if you were prepared to release him to begin his duties again.
Yeah, I think so.
I think probably, do you want to have, my suggestion is for you to have dialogue with him, Ruth, and then leave the discussion up to you. Because
Right, yeah.
obviously, depending on how Paul feels, depends on whether we recommend that duty, right?
Yeah, I have actually spoken to him in light of coming to you with that request, and he's happy to start again. I've arranged, we have already, before the lockdown, I did already get some safety equipment. We've got some face masks and gloves.
Real.
And I've also arranged to have a sleeveless vest with Tupton Parish Council on the back, so it's you know, blatantly clear that he's working for the Parish Council when he's out on his duties. It's just,
in that case, I'll move that we leave that with you to manage, Ruth, and
Okay.
you decide to continue on, cease as and when you decide that's fit.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to second that. So all in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right, report from representatives on outside bodies and working parties. I've got a couple of reports that have been passed to myself. Obviously, as we touched upon earlier when we were speaking with Hannah, VE Day, I think, was absolutely a success given all the circumstances. And I don't think it could have gone any better. And I'd actually like to move that as a parish, we send our thanks to Jill to pass on to everyone on the committee, because to have to rearrange it to the extent they did was phenomenal. So if everyone's in favour of doing that, I would like us to extend that.
Yes, I'm in favour.
I'm in favour.
I'm in favour.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth.
Thank you.
The Ivanhoes, I know not everyone's got social media, but they've actually been posting some photographs of the work that they've been doing down on the extra part of the thing on their Facebook page. Again, they've been doing quite a lot because one or two of them have been furloughed over the last few weeks. They're really making headway and coming on great guns with that. And just very, very briefly, because it's nothing more than speculative at this point in time, Jill and I did have a conversation about the community service awards that we touched on. Provisionally, because obviously everything at the minute is on hold, we have kind of looked at probably doing something in late February, so it falls in the winter and it can be done one winter evening, assuming all restrictions are over and we can do there. But just try and make it a bit of a night of entertainment and the awards and put things on there. But we're really in the government's hands as to what can be done as when before we do any kind of official launch. But it's just to update council that conversation has happened, and we're aiming really to try and give people something to look forward to. I think is the way of going on that one.
Yeah.
Finance, and I've got these here. On which order do we do this in? Summary of accounts. So finance, obviously we're in month one, so the figure, which is why there's no budget as well, because
Yeah, so it's looking extremely healthy at this moment in time.
So that's that one. And page 2, obviously I've redacted salary payments to individuals, but councillors have had those. So if we're happy to move them on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all in favour?
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Thank
That's
you.
unanimous, Ruth.
Thank you.
Section 137 grant applications, if any. Have we had any?
No, I've not received any.
No, I don't think we had. Tupton Village Hall, report on response from the Village Hall Management Committee. I spoke with Paul. They want us to hold off the meeting until they can have a physical meeting with us. But what Paul also said was that he would rather have one meeting where everything is finalised than have one preparatory meeting and then another one down the line. So on that basis, I'm actually going to put the proposal back to council, pulled it from the minutes again last month, so that we can actually approve this now, take it back so that we're actually we've got decisions for them so that they can work to those. And I'm going to add, obviously we've kind of got in the section 11 about contracts, that we actually pass that over to the personnel committee so that they can start any negotiations that need to be done on that. Hang on one sec, Pam, because I can see you've put your hand up and I've lost my thing. Yeah, Pam.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, just to say it does need moving forward. It's disappointing that the committee sort of aren't able to meet with the parish council and discuss it, but that's fair enough. It's really not their fault, and you know they're doing a good job there. They've just been landed with this, just like we have in a way, but it needs to be rectified. So I am going to vote that we move it forward.
I do.
I do.
David, I've got my hand up.
So, oh, sorry, Kathy, it's hiding things. Apologies.
I just wanted to ask, in your conversation with Paul, I mean, obviously he's had a copy of this now.
Yeah.
So he knows this as an intention because it's a draft document. Did he make any comment at all? Because I think the issue I was making last time is, one, I didn't want him to be surprised. Well, we've got over that point now. But secondly, as you know, having a fait accompli presents the situation that you don't have any negotiations. So if he is actually objecting to anything here, and he's indicated all that already, I think we need to know.
He certainly hasn't indicated any objection. The conversation that he and I had, and I'm always wary of I don't want to misrepresent anyone or anything that's said. So obviously this is taken with my interpretation of what he said and recollection of. Paul is as keen as we are that things are sorted. He's obviously, the ownership of the village hall is a huge concern if anything ever goes wrong at any point in time. That needs to be rectified. He was going to get Shelley to run through some figures in terms of taking the staff and actually tuping them over, which is a preferred option, I think, from all sides. Which I think is, and again, this is I think that's why he's wanting us to go in for final negotiations rather than it being a case of have this conversation, have everybody kind of getting this stuff on and then coming back down the line and saying, oh yeah, let's agree this. He's just keen to get things moving forward. I think the key thing is what he did say, and I think, well, I put it in the email. I think they haven't had, or they feel they've not had the support that they should have had from various bodies. That includes the Charity Commission and everything else. I think they want a healthy working relationship, and I think that's one of the key things to come out of here, is that we have a healthy working relationship. And everybody knows that it's been muddied over the years and by far too many people, and you can't unravel it all. So everybody wants a nice, clean sheet. So the conversation that I had with him, he is as keen as everyone to get this cleaned up and actually get the thing done properly.
Can I say something? I've got my hand up. I think if Paul had any objections to this being moved forward, it would surely have at least written a letter to the clerk and sort of submitted his thoughts in that. And the fact that he hasn't backs up, what.
Well, I think to actually clarify that, Paul and I spoke on the phone one afternoon.
Yeah, but
I said to Paul, because he was actually at work. So I said to Paul, do you want me to make a note of the conversation? I will actually email it to the representatives and to the clerk and copy him in so that he knew exactly what had been said. And Paul did actually respond down the line and say, yeah, that he was happy with what had been said there. So, yeah. So I think he's confirmed He's confirmed absolutely as much
He
as
has
he could.
confirmed, so that has been done, but not in a way. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Ross
Camille
and,
has got her
Ross
hand
and
up.
Camille have both got their hand up, and I'm not sure who was got it first.
Ross can go first.
Okay, I'll go. My issue is that how long are we waiting? Do we know?
Well, we don't, because they're wanting a face-to-face meeting. I mean, my position is, if we actually approve this tonight, then we start the ball rolling anyway. We're doing all the stuff from our end. They're looking at the figures from their end. We've got to have, as far as the staff go, for if there is a TUPE process, which obviously there's got to be proper consultation on that, which is why that pot needs handing over to the HR committee. So there's a proper due process to take place, which will take a couple of months anyway. So at that point, we should be looking towards hopefully restrictions being lifted on meetings taking place, or at least being able to have some sort of meeting. But the ball's rolling. We're not waiting a couple of months to get things started. We're actually at the tying up stage at that point.
Because there's at the moment, this face-to-face, as things stand, this face-to-face meeting won't happen till at least probably September.
Yeah, exactly.
This is if everything goes according to plan. So essentially, we're stuck in a position where we're in limbo, where we're trying to push something forward. We can't actually push anything forward because we can't get a meeting with the village hall. What I find just a bit strange is that we can organise a parish council meeting via Zoom. We can't get our little group and the village hall on a thing here, because I don't see any difference between us having the conversation here, which is essentially face to face but through a camera. You know, it's not like emails, or it can't be construed anything differently. Context can't be seen different. We're literally talking to each other. I'd like to see this push forward.
No, I agree with you there, and I think if we're being completely honest, that is a matter of preference on their part in terms of.
Whose part is that? Is this the full committee's view? Is this just one member of that committee's view? Is this whose view is this?
This is well, obviously that I've only spoken with Paul, so obviously the conversation I've had back is that's Paul speaking on behalf of the committee who he had spoken with. So that's in terms of there. As I say, if we actually approve this tonight, which is my suggestion, we're already getting to the point that by the time we do have this meeting, it is just a case of signing the final bits.
Because what I mean, he's almost shooting himself in the foot here, isn't it? Because he's not going to have any input into actually what path the parish council take now, and actually, if we approve this, he can't do anything about that anyway, can he?
Yeah, but I mean, my whole point last month, and sorry, I am aware there's 3 people still to speak, so I'm not ignoring anybody. My point last month was that these things actually, barring number 12, which we've spoke about on the phone, which is potentially the TUPE bit, there is actually no room for negotiation anyway on any of these. They are a position we have got to take, and it's not even one that we want to take for a particular reason. It's one we've got to take to put things right.
Well, there's some things that could be not necessarily approved straight away, though, like the revoking all the unofficial agreements that we don't know if they're actually a benefit or a hindrance to the arrangement. There's also where are we?
Well, the problem with unofficial arrangements is that they're always a hindrance, aren't they? Because they are unofficial.
Yeah, but if we revoke them, that just then says that we're not going to support or honour any of those agreements that have officially existed. But actually, some of them might be working perfectly fine, and by revoking them, which is essentially this policy would legalise revoking them regardless of what the outcome of them was.
But is it? You see, I would disagree with you that the way forward is if somebody actually needs something doing, they just have that dialogue. Can this be done? Yes, we'll do agree to it. Which is what we would do with any other community group at all.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to think of some. There's potentially going to be some problems that arise by not having the discussion to actually figure out what the Tupton or Village Hall Committee's viewpoints on these are. Like, yes, we can go with the approach of this is our position, which is what I'd like to do. But I think by not actually taking the initial meeting ASAP, it's going to create. I actually can see it creating further problems down the line than if we actually had a meeting now just to scope out what everyone's feelings are on this, including the staff that we're talking about.
Well, let's get the other views and then throw it all together. Camille, you were next.
Yeah, I just want to know, has he had sort of adequate time to read, as Paul's had adequate time to read through this? Have we, we're giving him plenty of time to actually get his head around things and to look into this in more detail? And have you had the conversation with him that you were hoping to, or we as a council were hoping to move this forward today? Is he aware that we are at that point?
Paul and I have had the conversation. He's had this. He's also had all the supporting documents that have gone into this being done.
Right.
So it's not just this. He's had the background paperwork as well.
And he knows that we want to move this forward.
He knows that we want to move it forward. Yes. Yeah. Right. So I mean, as I say, Paul's. I can't remember his exact wording, but no. Paul's position was he doesn't want umpteen meetings.
No, I mean,
he wants a meeting that will finalise everything.
Yeah, because like last time, as Kathy said, we didn't want this to be a shocker to him.
Yeah.
We wanted him to have enough time, and I just want to make sure we are still giving him enough time with all that's going on in the world at the moment. And we're just making sure that he can't come back to us. Or I'm not saying he is going to come back to us. I'm just going to say, as he read this thoroughly, is he happy with what we're saying? It's just a question of dotting I's and crossing T's, isn't it?
Yeah, which largely it is, but yeah,
right.
Yeah. Kathy, you're next. I'm not ignoring you, I'm just throwing them all in.
Yeah, I still have reservations because, part of the reason that Paul doesn't want to have the meeting at the moment is because of the current situation, and he's not sure whether we can get everybody together. And, there is a feeling that we're bouncing them into a situation. And I still think it will be far better to wait for a meeting. This situation's been going on for some time, as you know, David.
It's been 50 years wrong. Yeah, this is the problem.
So why has it suddenly become urgent now and it wasn't then? Might be my question. And why couldn't it wait till after the lockdown? I mean, I do have reservations about that we will end up, if we agree this motion today, that there will be something that the Village Hall Committee will raise in respect of what we've said here, and we'll end up having to go back anyway. I still think it would be far better to have the discussion whenever that can take place, and then come back with the final confirmation. I mean, the confirmation really doesn't. We're not talking about an extra meeting with Paul. We're asking for him to come back from that meeting with the issues that he's either comfortable with or not comfortable with, to confirm it.
You know Paul better than I do. So I will ask you, I'm repeating what I've taken from the conversation I've had with Paul. So you obviously are more familiar with him as a person than I am. What is your interpretation?
My interpretation is that there are some aspects of this that I'm sure he would be quite happy with, but the full implications need working through for the whole committee, and I don't think they've had time to do that.
Pam?
Well, they've had a month. I'm sorry, I'm butting in, but Kathy, there's been a month since the last meeting.
Yeah, a month in the current environment, though, Pam, honestly, in terms of people being able to get together and talk properly through the implications. We've had much longer. Let's be frank about it.
No, I think Paul's savvy enough to have read it all, and I'm sure he's also savvy enough to understand. And there's all these meetings going on in the UK via Zoom. You can get people together. It's probably just what David is relaying back, that Paul's not really interested maybe in having a lot of meetings. you know, and we can't sort of detract from his intelligence and think, well, he's not read it properly and he don't really understand it all. Yeah, he's
No,
having
I'm not saying that, Pam. I think
no,
there are issues about the ownership of the staff, I think, is the particular thing I'm talking about. I think a lot of the rest of it is just the law, but them taking on the staff, one of the reasons why the parish council took on the staff, well, there were some issues that needed addressing. And I think there are some issues for them to take on the staff. And I think that's the one that I think is most controversial, even though I don't disagree that there is an issue with the parish council carrying on employing them.
but surely
This is a big issue, I think.
Paul, he knows what he's about. Surely he would have thought that out and come back to Ruth or David and express concerns about it. He's had a month.
Yeah, I have to agree with Pammy. I mean, I'm not being funny, but this idea that there's not enough time at the moment to hold Zoom meetings is absolute rubbish. Because if I can, for example, in my job at work, I've been working from home. If I can arrange with people in Bulgaria to develop something for the part of the platform I work on, to get it deployed, to get it tested from England, how on earth can we not get 4 people from Tupton or Village Hall?
Well, that's not us to judge that, though, is it?
Well, no, but I mean, we can only ask them, right? We can say, are you going to come to this meeting or not? If they're saying that they can't find time in the next 3 months, Camille, to arrange just an hour just to discuss it, that's a bit. John's trying to get
He says he wants a physical meeting. That's what he's asked.
Yeah,
he's
but
asked specifically for that to happen.
In the current climate, that's not possible. You have to then start making arrangements and compromises here. We'd all love to be having our parish council meeting in person so we can all see each other and talk to each other, but that's not a reality. The world still has to move on, and we have to still get some of these things sorted. We've been elected to take decisions and make sure that things are running properly. We're not elected just to palm it off for 3 months just because there's a crisis that stops us all seeing each other.
Can I ask, was this brought up a while ago to council and discussed?
No, I think it was a separate issue that was brought up a while ago, Kathy, wasn't it?
But we still couldn't get a meeting with the Village Hall Committee. Yeah?
I can't honestly remember what that was about. I know there was a separate issue that we did try and get a meeting, but it's going back so many years now, I've forgotten.
Yeah, the same thing was used then, that we can't have a meeting because we can't get everybody together. That was in person. So we can't keep palming stuff off saying we can't have a meeting because we can't get everybody together. I'm sorry, but you have to, at some point, set down a date, get people to a meeting. If they don't turn up, then we're just going to have to take the decisions from our end. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah,
at the risk of
I agree.
At the risk of kind of putting someone in an awkward position, Ruth, obviously you're our guide in terms of. Let me pull this down a second, then we can get. I can see more clearly what's going on. What would your advice to council be?
Well, I mean, you have got the. You can make the decision if you wish to go ahead and start the process. It doesn't stop you talking with them further down the line. If you've made the decision based on your knowledge of what the legality of the current situation is to regularise this now, then it's quite legitimate for you to say we want to regularise it, and in order to do that we've got to take these following steps. And you can set that off, and then you can still have the discussions down the line. It doesn't set it in stone. You've made the decision to set the process going, and you can start it off. But then you can still, adjust that down the line if there are certain aspects of it that you find won't work either for the parish council or for the management committee. They would have to be subject to negotiations. But the things that you have got in your, that went originally to council, I can't see that there's anything in there. I think the only thing that that Ross raised about revoking all unofficial agreements, I mean, you could just say to review that. However, if it's an official agreement with the parish council as a custodian trustee, the parish council will no longer be a custodian trustee. So therefore, it won't be appropriate anyway. It will need to be re-looked at in the council's position as a parish council, as a different body to being the custodian trustee. So everything would have to be looked at anyway, because you would be in a different situation altogether.
Kathy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things I want to pick up from what Ruth's just said. I would suggest, I mean, for things that are quite legal, where we have a position that we need to regularise, I'm not against us moving forward in terms of regularising those and declaring that intention to Paul, the village hall. But I still think we should seek a response or a meeting, one or the other, from him on the issues that we're raising, in case there are issues that we need to relook at.
Yeah.
I do think the point Ruth's made about the agreements that we have, or that we've got memorandums of agreements about relative responsibilities, I do think they need to be reviewed. We need to look at what is in existence. So I think a wording that talked about reviewing those agreements rather than just revoking them would be appropriate. So I think that would be where I sit on.
So the general feeling I'm getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I'm trying to take in what everybody's saying, is if we actually change that word revoke to review, would members be happy passing that resolution?
And say that we still would seek to have some further discussion with the village hall.
I think that's actually in the second point, if memory serves correctly. Let me just double check. Yeah, to work with the Village Hall Management Committee, ACRE, and any other sources required to identify the appropriate framework for the charity, and to achieve a position of the earliest opportunity. So, yeah, yeah, and also we've got in line 13, haven't we, to be formed to proactively work with the committee.
Ruth's got her hand up.
Sorry, it's all right. I just swapped screens over. Ruth.
Yeah, and the other thing I could do is, obviously, as we start the process, if you did go ahead and approve this tonight, once we start the process, I can keep the Village Hall Management Committee informed of what actions we are taking, so it would keep them up to date throughout the process.
Yeah, I think that would be vital.
You know, like, this is what we've done. We've applied for this. This is this is where we are. This is the status of what we're doing. So that would keep them totally up to date. And then if they've got any real concerns at a certain point along the way, they would have an opportunity to raise that.
Yeah, I think that's right. That.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ross, Kathy.
I think. Well, I'm still a bit torn on. It all seems very vague. Like, there's nothing that's like trying to get. There's nothing that will get this moving. If we pass this now, we can do some of the stuff. We can, we say we are going to review the policies, which is fine. But there's some stuff that we actually need to sit down with them on. And I forgot which points they were because it's gone off screen. But there's some points we actually need to sit down with them on prior to us actually commencing the work our end. So
right, if we go through it, item 8.
I didn't think we were arguing that, Ross. I thought we were now saying that we were going to go forward, but we would make it clear that's what we were doing by informing the village.
That's fine.
And still seek further discussions.
There's still some points though that need a conversation prior to us actually taking some action. Like, we might have an intention to review the policies, but you can review the policies. If you find something, go to the village hall. We need that discussion, that dialogue between not just the clerk and the village hall, between us, because we're going to be the ones making the decision on that, right? So every step of the way, Ruth's going to do a bit of work, go to village hall, get them to clarify something. They say we disagree with that, then Ruth's going to have to bring it back. Rather than us, why not just have a meeting? It's going to take a lot of time, back and forth, when really we just sit around in a meeting, go through each point, and actually get an agreement with them and between us and the working group from our end. Because the staff issue, for example, how on earth do you take that forward without having a meeting with the village hall committee?
Well, that's what I've been saying, Ross. I thought you were arguing against me.
No,
They're taking on the staff.
And that I agree with. But you're trying to say wait until after COVID-19's disappeared. Well, that's 9 months down the line, so that's not good enough, is it?
No.
So you know, that's just a non-starter as far as I'm concerned.
I think
we need to actually say, look, you need to get the committee together one way or the other and get them in a meeting like this. If we can arrange a council meeting, I'm fairly sure, even if it has to be an evening where we just get everybody together once they've all finished work and just have a conversation. I don't see how it's you know, unworkable. That to me is like the perfect way to do it. We all have a meeting, talk it through, come up with an agreement with them so they're happy, we're happy, and then we can push it forward and everyone's on the same page. Because at the minute I can see what's going to happen here. We're going
Ruth's wanting to come in.
to approve this. As soon as they get it, they're going to kick off because they're not going to be happy with that we're pushing it forward without talking to them. Because if you've seen any comments on Facebook from when David's put out up about Village Hall, I can tell you now, I even mentioned the name, and it's, well, why haven't you spoken to me about it? So why on earth do you think this is going to be any different?
Ruth?
I think at the end of the day, if you do approve this tonight, you are basically you're making a resolution to take these actions. This isn't the detail. This is the overall agreement that this is the action that you want to take. This is the thing that you need to do. You've got to negotiate the contracts with the staff, and you've got to go ahead and remove yourself as custodian trustee, and you've got to legalise the current situation. So this is an overall resolution to say these are the steps that you need to take. It doesn't go into the detail. The detail of it is the point at which you are having the negotiations with the village hall. I mean, at the end of the day, I presume what the parish council are saying is that come hell or high water, you are going to you don't no longer want to be responsible for the staffing. You no longer want to be a custodian trustee. So that's the decision you're making. It's then subject to how you actually do it is the result of the negotiations that you then have with the village hall about how you then move that forward. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Camille, you had a few questions. Do you want to come back on anything?
No, I mean, I'm just sort of like sat here listening to you all, and I'm just like thinking, it's more, because this is all quite too legal above my head, that is it just more of a case of we are resigning from something? Are we more looking at that way?
Effectively, the legal background is the land that the village hall stands on was given to the parish. Well, I don't know whether it was given or whether there was a financial transfer, but it was handed over to the parish council in 1969, and it was handed over for the village hall to be built. The money for the village hall to be built was raised by lotteries and raffles and that from the people in the village. What should have happened is that the legal title would then have passed to custodian trustees of the village hall. Instead, what happened, and obviously going back 50 years, none of these people are even still alive, so we're fumbling a little bit in the dark. They made the parish council custodian trustees. Legally, that can't happen because the parish council already own the land. So the custodian trust, effectively, we would be, I mean, you work in a bank, so you're familiar with kind of like the mortgage side of it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So effectively, the parish council is like freeholder and leaseholder. So the title has never been correct because it simply shows that the land is owned by Tupton Parish Council, which it isn't because it should be under lease to the trustees of the village hall. But the Charity Commission doesn't allow the management committee, who are the trustees of the day-to-day operations, to be custodian trustees. They have to have an independent body. So for all these years, the trusteeship has been incorrect. So that's been a long-standing issue. And as Ross pointed out last time, and which is an underlying concern, and yes, perhaps we don't know how realistic these things are, but we all know, without being overtly political, we do know that a certain party that is in control at Matlock and on Mill Lane have an obsession with centralising everything.
Right.
So the danger is if they were to then take ownership of this land, which could happen down the line, that's a nice piece of land that they could sell on. They could sell it from under them without any repercussions whatsoever, and they haven't got a leg to stand on.
Right.
So effectively in law, as we stand right now, we're actually landlords for the village hall rather than the owners of the freehold.
Right. Okay.
So it's a mess. It's wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
It shouldn't be in that position. What happened with regard to the staffing issue? There were, and again, lots of history and lots of things that came on, but the staff used to be employed by the village hall, which is what should have happened.
Yeah.
For varying reasons, the contracts were tupied over to the parish council. So effectively, the parish council paid them out of the precept.
Yeah.
Now, what would normally happen in a situation like that is that the parish council would provide a grant if the organisation wasn't in a position to pay for it, so that you could cover the cost, but the actual legal employment point would still be the village hall.
Right.
Over the years, we've carried on employing their staff, which obviously comes at a cost of roughly 10% of the precept.
Yeah.
So there is an ongoing cost here of quite a significant value to the parish council.
We could potentially be giving them that anyway if they took over.
That's a possibility that could be there. But what you have, and again, not suggesting this is going to happen, but again, with us being the legal employer, if any situation of tribunal arose, it would be the parish council that were taken to court.
Yeah.
Not the village hall management committee. We actually have a situation right now which is going on, where a lot of staff in the country, if their place of employment is closed, they cannot work, they are being furloughed and the government is paying 80% of their wages.
Mm-hmm.
Parish councils on all local authorities, and Ruth will correct me if I'm wrong here because there have been changes in recent days, but if they are being paid for out of the precept, which is what's happening here, they cannot claim that money back.
But if they're going to be taking money from us anyway, that would come from the precept, would that not be the same?
No, because you've got...
Let me give you an example on that then. So I know somebody in their parish council that runs the local nursery, the local preschool, who have got staff, and she can't furlough them because some of her funding comes from the parish council. Okay, she can't, and then but then she can't top up the rest of the wages because that comes from the income from people sort of paying for wraparound care. So would that not be a similar situation?
No, because Ruth's going to come in because Ruth obviously can clarify the legalities of all this.
Yeah, my understanding is that where a member of staff is paid directly from the precept, like myself and Paul, you can't furlough them.
No, and
if they are working in an environment which is reliant on income, and you're not directly paying them from the precept, there's an indirect payment, then their area of work is reliant on income to maintain their job, then in those cases that staff can be furloughed. Right. That is our latest advice, and I understand from meetings that I've had that there are many parish councils who have got community centres, who run community centres where staff have been furloughed, that they have been able to claim the furloughed back. But if it's if you pay directly, then no, you can't. So,
I understand about that side of things. It was just we were going to give them money from the precept anyway,
Yeah.
Is it not coming from the same pot?
Yeah, because they would consider it as an income somewhere else on their balance sheet. So
Except we haven't agreed that all this.
No,
No,
that's
Nothing in the
all.
motion.
Yeah,
Nothing in the motion says
there's
that.
nothing in the motion for that at all.
Yeah,
It's-
no, get my head around it.
Yeah, no, the key here is to get the points correct, the points of employment, the points of ownership.
Yeah.
How that moves forward is obviously that's part of what will be negotiated down
I mean,
the line.
to move this forward, all my concerns were, I understand, I agree with what Pam's saying, that they possibly have had long enough to do this as well. But then I don't really think it's up to us to say, well, you've not come together for a meeting. So should we just push it forward? Because we have given them ample opportunity to have meetings. It's not up to us we can't hold their hands and say, you've got to have a meeting. That's not for us, is it? We've requested one. They don't
It's not, and my key element is, as I say, certainly as far as the ownership, we need to move that forward, get that put right.
Yeah.
Because as it stands, it isn't right. And yes, these things are speculative, but it could blow up in everybody's faces, and this is something that needs to be done. Yes, Kathy is right, it's been wrong for 50 years. Is there an immediate urgency? No, there's not. But to me, actually, this time when other things are a little bit more slack is actually the time to be putting these things right.
Mm-hmm.
And actually take advantage of this time when other things that we would have hoped were going on are on hold because they can't go through. So that's my logic as to why we put it through now. There's nothing any more sinister or any ulterior motive. It's simply a case the timing is available. Ruth might kill me and say, actually, no, I'm rushed off my feet, so it's not the right time.
Am I right in sort of saying then that if we move this to go forward, there is still negotiation there, isn't there? So
there is still negotiation to be had, absolutely.
Yeah, so if Paul has got any concerns and any, later down in the line before everything's been signed, sealed and delivered, that he has got that opportunity.
Yeah, and the wording of that motion, that last section is absolutely designed to make sure that it is a partnership. It is not, as I say, some aspects have got to be changed by law because legally they're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not open to negotiation. It's wrong. It's got to be put right.
Right.
But it's there to work together, not to sit there and say, no, we can hold on forevermore. Pam, you've got your hand up. Sorry, I've been talking.
John's got his up as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'd muted myself actually by mistake. Yeah, I mean, let's just get this first bit voted for and move it forward. Nobody wants to actually see anybody put out a joint by this. It's for the village and that's what we want.
Yeah.
But it just needs to go forward. So I'll put forward that we vote on it and let's see what others want to do.
Well, before we do, let's get John's input. John.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but
no, don't apologise. We put your apologies in case you weren't well.
Yeah, well, it's not that I wasn't well. I can't get into the into the system, and in fact, I'm on my phone rather than on the PC. The concern I've got, and I've come in halfway through, so I really have to abstain on really what's being discussed. But my concern is quite simply this. Because if this is voted through, we are actually going to be the custodians of the employment of the staff. Am I right to say that? Because then I've got to argue who determines the terms and conditions of contractual duties. Where is their contracts of duties? Where is the rates of pay that's been agreed probably over many, many years, and you probably find that they've been actually agreed that there'll be an increment increase year on year that's perhaps not been adhered to. So we could finish up finding ourselves in a situation where the employees, which are our people, we are going to have to find probably quite a lot of money if their contractual duties have been altered over the years and we are totally unaware.
No,
And in
it's,
actual
it's actually the opposite way round. We've been the point of their employment contract for years. What we're saying should have happened is that the village halls should have been. So it's kind of the reverse of that scenario.
So basically what you're saying is it was the local authority, the county council or the district council that should have been picking up the tabs.
No, it should have been the village hall, but it's been the parish council instead.
So in other words, people will be owing the parish council some.
Well, no, because it was all done by agreement. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody will be reclaiming any money off anyone. So no, there will be no.
That was the concern
Yeah.
I've got.
Yeah,
if
no.
that's going to happen.
No, absolutely nobody will be reclaiming any money off anyone else. Kathy.
Having said that, I still
sorry.
will abstain because I don't know what's going on.
No, that's fine. You've come in part way through, and that's perfectly understandable. Kathy.
I mean,
Oh.
legal issue. I really don't have.
Kathy, apologies. I muted you rather than lowered your hand. Just repeat that.
The issue of regularising the custodian trustee, which is a purely legal issue, which we've highlighted now to the village hall, I really don't have a problem with us moving ahead with that.
Yeah.
It was helpful for you to put the motion up again because the issue, you know, as I said earlier, I think the wording, if we're looking at this motion, should be review the agreements, not revoke them, because I think we need to look at the content of them. The last point in there is about having a working party, isn't it? And
yes.
Yeah. And as I say, I think it's the issue that I'm most concerned about is the issue about handling the staff, and there has to be due process about all of that.
Yeah.
You know, we can't leave them high and dry. They've got to be in a position, the village hall, to take them on properly, and that's the bit that I'm worried about if we don't have discussion. But your motion seems to cover that by talking about a working party. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, the whole thing is to make sure that that is there and everyone is supported the whole way through at all levels, without any exception. Pam?
Yeah, Kathy, yeah, I totally agree with you. I would not vote for any staff to be left high and dry.
No, I wouldn't.
Not the intention.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, I agree with you there, Kathy. That's not the intention at all. We have to see that the staff are okay. Yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
So going back to what we suggested, if we change the word revoke to review,
yeah,
are we happy to pass the motion as it stands?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that, David.
Yes.
Right. All in favour? Obviously,
Yeah.
John's abstaining in terms of that. So I'm voting yeah. I'm out of camera shot, aren't I? There.
No, I can see you.
Okay, right. Thank you.
And obviously, as you said, Ruth, make sure that Paul's kept entirely in the loop as we go through.
Yeah.
And then we know that everyone's being factored in, and there's nothing that anybody's left out of the loop on.
Yeah, yeah.
Item 12, Birkin Avenue project. I don't think there's anything more to add to what you put in the action plan, is there?
I think so. No, receive the quotations. So obviously, I'll let you know as soon as I get further quotations in. Hopefully, bring them to the next meeting.
Youth Club. We've had the email from Mark, which everyone's had a copy of. I'll let you appraise everyone, Ruth, if you want, on because you've actually had a conversation with Mark as well, haven't you, on this?
Well, no, I didn't manage to get one in the end. He's living in he's working in a very poor area where he can't seem to get a signal. So yes, it's basically as set out on the email that I circulated to all members. It seems that they are going to agree to decorate the inside rooms of the youth club Originally, they had just said that they were going to do the main hall. So based on the fact that they carry out the repairs as agreed and decorate all the rooms, they are looking for the parish council to consider whether they are now in a position to say they would like to go ahead with the transfer of the building.
Kathy?
Did we not ask them to redecorate the outside of the building as well?
No, I don't remember that.
No,
I
don't.
only recall inside, if I'm honest, but I might be
think
wrong.
it was inside. The original one was.
I think outside had to be watertight and everything like that. I don't recall there being anything about decor on the outside, if I'm truthful.
Well, the bit that was in the minutes, can I just quote the minutes? You've got here, it says,
I've got them on here.
to the external and internal painting and decorating.
I think that was I think that was the wording that was taken from the lease, if I remember rightly.
So isn't there a requirement, therefore, for them to make certain that the external of the
if that's what's in the lease, it's got to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, I found it now. Yeah. So whatever it says in there is what they've got to do.
Yeah. So I think we need to clarify. What I'm saying is that they're not saying that in their letter. So, we need to clarify that point with them.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Would you be happy if because I know the question, I know he'll ask me this question, if I go back to him and say, if they agreed to undertake the external decorating, would the parish council then be willing to move forward? That's the question he's asking. He's needing some assurance that we keep going back to them, and he just needs some assurance that this actually is going to terminate in an agreement to go ahead.
If they adhere to what's in the lease, then personally, I would accept it. I mean, we've got no choice, to be honest, because it's a contractual agreement.
I would like, if at all possible, to actually get a time scale on it as well, and say I don't know how viable it is from their perspective, but if we can kind of work towards a September handover, that to me would be ideal.
I think, to be honest, I'm less keen about that because we can't really open it up even if we did get it sorted.
No.
If they adhere to that lease, what they've signed and we signed up into the lease 20 odd years ago, then we've got no choice but to accept it anyway. Which is why I don't really understand why they're asking for our
I think, to be truthful, Ross, the reason why is they've still got another 2 years before the break point. So if we don't agree to it, they've still got all of this to do in 2 years' time, and then.
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. They've still got the lease to carry. They've still got the lease to adhere to, whether it's now or in 2 years. Yeah. They've still got to put it right.
Yeah. So I think they're wanting to get our agreement that we will be happy. If they do it now, they get it off their books effectively. I think that's why they're wanting our agreement now.
Yeah.
In terms of that, I'm more than happy to support, subject to those things actually being agreed.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to that.
Yeah, I'd be great with that.
Yeah.
And do you want me to put a time scale in? Do you want me to say by the end of the year, for example?
Maybe worth asking when they think they can have it done by and then report back.
Awesome.
But you can't really say that because you don't know how jobs they can get to, do you, at the moment?
No.
Can we then?
Everybody's under restrictions.
Rather than mess about, are we happy to actually hand delegated authority for it over to the clerk to finalise based on that?
Yeah.
She can just report back in the clerk's report rather than come back for decisions.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Okay.
Agenda. I've forgotten what the next bit was.
Street cleaning.
Yeah, street cleaning and grounds maintenance.
The grounds maintenance, I didn't know whether you wanted to report on the rugby club, on the information that they've received, David.
Yeah, we can do. The rugby club have actually managed to receive a grant for covering some of their costs. So they're going to take over some of the grounds maintenance on the North Side Recreation Ground. I don't know whether they've come back to Ruth or not as of yet.
No, not yet, no. I'm still waiting for the final details before I can go back to North East.
We have said to them that they need to specify exactly what they need North East to do, so that we can go back with a revised spec that obviously will be reduced on what they do now. So once the rugby club actually get back to us and say, yeah, we just need hedges cutting or something like that, then we can go back, and that should give us a revised figure from NEDDC. But they've actually, the grants enabled them basically to be a year ahead of where they expected to be. So that takes that cost away from us. And I think that was it. The street cleaner, you've covered his element in the...
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Planning matters, Ruth circulated that. That was all items for decision. So
yes, they were just for information.
Publicity items. I think if we put Hannah's still there, if we actually put an update for Hannah on the carnival in there, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
I think as well a thank you for the VE Day publicly.
Yeah.
I think everything else is kind of too speculative or
That's
kind
it.
of
Yeah, because there's nothing, we can't arrange nothing, can we, at the moment?
No. It's perhaps worth putting some publicity out there saying we are still chasing Northwood, but obviously the current circumstances, so people know we've not forgot about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any suggestions?
No.
Can I ask a question, please, Chairman?
Certainly.
I don't know how much truth in this, but I was informed today that Zoom are going to start charging for the use of this facility.
We use a paid-for version anyway.
Right, as long as you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah.
I don't know how much or how much time or whatever. I really haven't got much of a clue about all that.
We as a parish council don't pay for it because I have a subscription that I pay for and we latch onto that one. So okay. There is no cost to the parish at all. It's one that I cover personally.
Yeah. Yeah, fine.
But yeah, we do have the cover. We do have the paid for version so that we don't have any restrictions.
Right, that's cool. Okay.
Date of next meeting will be, I'm assuming that we're going to be on another Zoom meeting at that point. I think it'd be foolish.
David.
Sorry, Kathy.
Could we just have a discussion about the time of day of the meeting?
I was actually going to come into that as well, because I've noticed, I mean, the reason why we went with the afternoon last time was because typically the evening ones are difficult with people noticing connections, and as we've been going along this evening, Ross especially, I don't know whether it's been noticeable at your end or not, but I've noticed there's been times that you've been that little bit more intermittent.
Yeah, mine has.
Yeah, mine has.
Yeah, so I mean, the evening ones are more tricky. I'm conscious that Stephen, who unfortunately is not well, is he? But Stephen was having issues if it was in an afternoon. So I'm trying to balance making it as accessible as possible time-wise without us running into the point where the internet connection becomes problematic for people. So we kind of said that we suggested the 5:30 tonight in the hope that we wouldn't have problems. We've not had insurmountable problems, but we have had issues. So I'm literally going to throw it open to debate and see what people want to do. I mean, the only thing I will add, I was at Wingerworth's meeting. They held theirs at 7 o'clock last Wednesday. and it wasn't a nightmare. It would be wrong to say it was a nightmare, but it was certainly problematic. We had one councillor who literally was dropping in and out through the whole meeting. 3 of them were on lag. Even the clerk was struggling, and one councillor had to actually ring into the clerk's phone and be on loudspeaker from her table. So I'm certainly keen on steering away from them being held too late in the evening because it causes problems. But I'm not sure what the right time is, and I think that's a key issue. Pam?
Yeah, we're good for any time.
I am as well.
With what anybody wants to do really here.
I can do any time.
Can I just ask, for me, it's a lot easier if I have a pass number to get in, a password to get into it. Because I can
make sure that's issued along with the thing. That's not a problem, John.
Because having to work my way through it all, it means, of course, is that I've had to come on my phone to you rather than the computer. And last time I had a similar type of problem. So if I had a password, it would be far ear for me to get in.
We can make sure they're included on the agenda. That's absolutely no problem at all.
It is already. John, you know, if you go to your agenda on your computer, if you click the link, if you click the link on the agenda from your computer, it'll open it up straight into here.
That's what I do.
That's what I did.
I've been struggling. I've been struggling. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit on the thick side.
It can be done both ways, and there's absolutely no issue at all.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and I'm not that computer literate, so you know, I think you've got to allow for people that will struggle a little bit.
Absolutely, you're 100%, John. We've got to try and encompass everybody's needs, and that is, Ruth, it's a 2-second job to add another extra line into the agenda, isn't it? So,
no problem. No problem.
Kathy, sorry, I'm holding you.
Yeah, I mean, I was concerned about Stephen because he is working and works shift patterns, but I don't know specifically what hours might help. I mean, I am working from home on Zoom because I'm teaching, and I did have to rearrange my sessions this afternoon because I've got them at the times that I normally would teach, which is the after school hours. But I don't mind doing that if it suits everybody else, because as long as I have due notice doing it. But I am concerned about Stephen because
I'm concerned about him too. Yeah,
I think we all are, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, the only reason we went with 5:30 today was because of Stephen and his work. Otherwise, I would have gone with an afternoon one again, like we went with last time. But I'm conscious, obviously, Stephen got in touch and said it was really difficult for him.
So could he have done? If he was well, could he have done 5:30?
Yes, I think that was purely what kept him out of today.
Okay.
It was his illness. I think Stephen said to you, Ruth, that he could do 5.
He could do 5 o'clock. Yes.
So it may be a case if we try for 5 o'clock, we might be slightly better off. But the honest truth is, it is a trial and error thing, trying to balance getting people on here at their own availability and keeping the stable internet connection.
I mean, I would prefer to stick with 5:30. I mean, I managed to rearrange my Zoom sessions, but the kids, I teach children who are still having school sessions at a particular time scale while at home. So I have to wait till they finish before I can teach them. So I would prefer for it not to be earlier than 5:30, to be honest.
Right.
What was Stephen's
I agree with
time?
I think with 5:30 then. If Stephen could have done 5:30.
Stephen do 5:30.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was why we went with it today, was for that. So if we try and aim for the 5:30 bit and see if we can, because I mean, it hasn't been horrendous today, has it? We've only had a couple
No, it's not been too bad.
Issues. So, well, yeah, that's the sole purpose is purely trying to regulate the internet and make sure that people don't keep dropping off.
So when will it be then? 10th of June?
10th of June, yeah.
Yeah. So 10th of June at 5:30.
Yeah.
Cool.
And,
5:30.
and I think the only thing that I think we have to say, and I need to be careful how I say this so that there's no element of predetermination. But I think if Stephen did have continuing problems because of the scenario, I think it would be no way on earth that this council would not grant a dispensation.
Oh, no.
Based on that. This is a situation that the whole country is thrown in.
Yeah.
We have got to be fully supportive of any council member who is struggling to make these meetings.
Of course we are.
Yep.
And I think absolutely no doubt about that. And I don't know how regularly you speak to him, Kathy, but please pass that on.
Right, thank you.
Right, I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Unless somebody's got anything else they wanted to add.
No, don't know.
Right, well, take care, all of you.
Thanks,
and I will
everybody.
see with you
Yeah,
soon.
same
Thank
to
you.
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.